The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op.
Welcome to the Defion Productions podcast. I'm your host, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin, Don, and this is the Week in Bitcoin. We got a lot to cover today. Big story in Bitcoin in the last couple of days to a week has been the cold card hack. Unless you're living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard of it. If you're watching this podcast and you have somewhat of a taste for Bitcoin, or you are into the ecosystem of crypto, you had to have heard about it. It made mainstream news. It made obviously all the finance mainstream news. I saw it on Fox News the other day. We're going to dive in and talk about it. We're going to talk about self-custody, as I've been a big proponent and advocate for self-custody since the inception of this podcast. We're going to talk about the potential risks that are associated with self-custody. We're going to talk about, is self-custody still safe? What are our options? We're going to start with the story itself so we can have a baseline of what happened and, where we kind of go from here in where we're at currently, because there's a lot of chatter online in regards to people opining on their opinions, telling you what they think, telling you what you should think. So we're going to try to stick to the facts today. I am going to give you opinions. I'm going to tell you how I feel about certain things, but I'm going to try to keep things in the realm of information that's factual, that we know, and kind of leave what you should or shouldn't do kind of to the side. So let's get with the story and go right to the basics of what happened. This is an article from Bloomberg. I'm not going to click the actual article. I'm going to go to a separate one because this one's behind a paywall, but I have one that's not. Hackers have found a software flaw in a brand of cold Bitcoin wallet considered one of the safest places to store cryptocurrency, and are siphoning tens of millions of dollars in an ongoing attack. This is Bloomberg. Bloomberg with a very scary, catchy headline to get people to click in, clickbait. It's more deep than that. It's not just, a flaw in, Bitcoin self-custody and people are siphoning millions of dollars on an ongoing attack. It's more nuanced than that. Let's get into actually what happened. Security hack has once again rocked crypto. Since Thursday of last week, Bitcoin owners who store their crypto with Cold Card, which is a specific self-custody wallet, which offers a form of hyper-secure storage known as a hard wallet, have experienced 4 waves of thefts that have affected more than 5,200 individual addresses. An on-chain analysis by blockchain intelligence firm Galaxy Research revealed that the hackers have already moved approximately 1,816 Bitcoin, worth nearly 116 million off those wallets. It remains unclear who is behind the hack. While recent large crypto thefts have often been attributed to state-backed groups in North Korea or Russia, investigators have not yet linked this incident to any specific actor. Cold Card, made by a Canadian technology firm CoinKite, is a small hardware device that keeps Bitcoin keys offline, marked as cold storage for long-term holders. That offline design was supposed to make it one of the safest places to park Bitcoin, but a flaw in Cold Card's process created a fatal vulnerability. The weakness is rooted in a 2021 Cold Card software update that changed the way the wallet generated its recovery phrase, a series of random words such as pepper or floorboard, for instance, that provide a means of regenerating the dozens of random characters that make up a Bitcoin address. If you've watched this podcast for any period of time, you've heard me talk about seed phrases. You talk to me. You've heard me talk about recovery passphrases and seed phrases and all that kind of stuff. So that's what this is. CoinKite has since issued an open letter strongly advising users who generated a wallet seed on Cold Card devices to move their funds as soon as possible. The last 3 days have been some of the hardest in this company's history, and for a lot of the people reading this, they've been something much worse, the company said in a social media post. The Cold Card attack is one of hundreds of crypto hacks this year. Over the past 6 months, attackers launched 207 separate incidents, the most ever recorded in any half-year period by blockchain analytics platform TRM Labs. Yet total losses reached about 972 million, or less than half the 2.3 billion stolen in the first half of 2025. The breach rocked sentiment on crypto Twitter, with influencers and company executives commenting on its implications. Despite this, the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum were contained overall, with both cryptocurrencies experiencing less than a 1% drop since Thursday, which is kind of pretty amazing. Even as we sit today, Bitcoin's price is not much different than where it was before this news broke, which I think in the past would have been something much different. We probably would have seen like a 50% drop. But with this big major news, the price hasn't really dropped much. Timeline of losses. On July 30th, mapping the flow of funds for the original cold call vulnerability identified by Block, Galaxy Research discovered in the span of just 41 minutes, 1,196 addresses were fully drained for a little over 1,083 Bitcoin, or approximately 70.2 million. By the following day, additional reporting confirmed that a major portion of these early losses, roughly 594 Bitcoin worth 38 million, occurred in a single 25-minute sweep of about 500 single signature wallets. The third wave of sweeps occurred between Friday midday and Saturday morning, draining 200 Bitcoin from 1,912 addresses. On Monday morning, investigators detected the fourth wave, which ultimately brought the total estimated loss to 1,816 Bitcoin. The incident has reignited a long-running debate among Bitcoin holders over where to keep their coins. While some still argue strongly for self-custody, others say this hack has pushed them towards the perceived safety and simplicity of large, centralized platforms like Binance and Coinbase. Binance founder Changpeng Zhao, commonly known as CZ, raised the issue in a recent social media post. I'm a believer in self-custody, but it puts the burden on you, he said. So that's kind of where we're at. That kind of brings us to the conversation and discussion in regards to self-custody or custodial on an exchange, which has been a debate that has rung out throughout the course of my time in my 13 to 14 years in this crypto ecosystem in Bitcoin. Where do you hold your funds? My personal journey, I've been pretty vocal about it on this podcast. I was staunchly in the camp of self-custody is the only way to do it as a Bitcoiner for a while. I've evolved from that stance. Personally, for myself, 99% of the Bitcoin that I own is in self-custody. Full disclosure, I was not affected by this cold card hack. Knock on wood, I didn't have anything there. My wallet is, as of right now, safe. I believe still that it is safe. This is definitely very scary. And I will say that over the weekend, I was looking at my self-custody wallet more than I have probably at any point in time in the last couple of years. Nervous, even though I feel, like I said, very secure in where I have it, that mine could be drained, because at the end of the day, this is all computer technology. And as much as we feel safe about this stuff, I'm not a technician. I'm not a computer person. I'm not a cypherpunk. So I'm at the mercy of these electronic devices, and I would be lying to say that I wasn't a little scared over the weekend. But as things have passed and cooler heads prevail, this opens up a bigger conversation. And I will say that with the Clarity Act hanging in the balance, with the banks fighting against the crypto lobby and fighting against this ecosystem, I'm not conspiracy theory guy with this. I will just say that it's worth having the conversation of the coincidence of what's going on in Congress in regards to them voting on this and making, steadfast laws that are going to be on the books for this ecosystem, and the fight that continues to remain with people like Jamie Dimon, the Bitcoin banking lobby, and Elizabeth Warren, who are staunchly against this stuff from being put on the books with Congress. And then we have this big hack happen in the middle of all this. So is it a coincidence? Is it a domestic actor? Is it North Korea? I don't know. I'm not here to say one way or another, but I think it's worth having the conversation that it is rather a bit of a coincidence that all this stuff is going on, that, Congress is getting ready to make some decisions that are going to direct the course of where this thing goes in the future. And we have this major hack happen where, self-custody is rocked and the ideology of self-custody is rocked. Don't trust, verify is rocked. And people are nervous about custody and where do they put their coins. And if this stuff goes on the books, Coinbase stands to, benefit greatly, as does CZ and Binance and all these custodials that, put your stuff here and we'll take care of it. They benefit rather greatly if self custody is shaken and people take it off the self custody and put it back in the custodial. Rich, did you see any of this? I'm gonna guess you probably didn't, because I didn't get a text message from you asking me. But what are your thoughts on hearing this story? And you've heard me be a self custody guy for a long time. Don't trust, verify. Ethos of this podcast, and this major story breaking in the last couple of days. And your thoughts?
I will admit I was not aware of this. I was here all weekend doing other stuff, and I really wasn't on my phone much. So I wasn't checking in, and like it is disturbing because we're all but it's not surprising. Like, to be honest, we see stuff get hacked all the time. We see that our data is sold pretty regularly. So whether I just have to say I'm not surprised by anything anymore. That this could happen, and I guess that's always been, at some point, I'm sure I've asked you that question. I mean, like, you know, with self custody, my concern has always been, like, the federal government could they seize, uh, you know, with a subpoena or whatever, get a hold of someone's access and restrict it. Obviously that's why some people just don't use self custody, because they don't trust anyone. And then it's the question of, like, this company that this happened to, or any company this happened to, where's their accountability in terms of, like, financial compensation? What is the what? That's my next. That would be my first question. Are they liable, one way or the other, for this? You know, to reimburse the people for what were lost.
Yeah, the story's still developing. I don't know what the Cold Card Company or CoinKite are going to do in regards to any sort of reimbursements for people. I did earlier today because, again, like I said, I am not a traditional cypherpunk computer guy. So all the technical stuff, I'm not the guy to go to in terms of explaining very deeply how all this stuff works. So I did a grok asking a little bit more in regards to just plain English in it in layman's terms of what happened. So Grok gave me this response back, and I'll share. All right, folks, cold card scoop in plain English. The Bitcoin hardware wallet had a 2021 firmware bug that made recovery seeds far less random than claimed, roughly 40 to 72 bits of entropy instead of 128. Attackers could recreate possible seeds offline and drain matching wallets. From July 30th, they swept about 1,367 BTC, nearly 89 million, from over 4,500 addresses across multiple waves. CoinKite fixed the firmware, but old seeds still stay weak. If you generated yours on affected versions without enough dice rolls on a strong passphrase, make a brand new seed on updated firmware and move the coins. I will say, the 12, I looked it up. The 12 seed passphrase gives you 128 bits. 24 seeds gives you 256 bits. So your entropy wants to be at least 128. So I guess the problem here with Cold Card is, for whatever reason, the seeds that they had were only 40 to 72 bits of entropy, which made them vulnerable. I don't know why CoinKite didn't fix that or identify that as a potential point of failure, but that's kind of where we're at. In regards to, because I've had people ask questions, so I'm trying to do this as informative and educational as possible. And I'm sure, Rich, you probably see dice rolls and you're like, what the hell is dice rolls? So in regards to Bitcoin self-custody and dice rolls in Bitcoin self-custody refer to an analog method of generating true random numbers, which is entropy, to build a secure wallet, seed phrase, or private key, instead of trusting a hardware device's internal computer chip to pick random words. Using a physical six-sided dice 50 to 99 times to construct their own cryptographic keys. How the dice roll method works, the process. You take a standard physical die and roll it dozens of times by hand, writing each number down 1 through 6 on a paper. The math, which is entropy. About 50 rolls gives you roughly 128 bits of randomness for a 12-word seed phrase, while 99 rolls gives you roughly 256 bits of randomness for a 24-word seed phrase. Conversion: you input the physical string of numbers into an air-gapped device like a seed signer or cold card, or an offline tool to mathematically translate the sequence into standard BIP39 recovery words. Why people use dice rolls: no factory backdoors, physical dice have no computer code, no firmware bugs, and cannot be remotely hacked or manipulated during manufacturing. True anonymity ensures your secret wallet keys are born entirely in the physical world rather than relying on digital random number generators, which is what most use, the RNGs. So the true issue is, I guess, that these seed phrases were not 12-word seed phrases and didn't have the 128 bits. I will say, trying to be completely non-biased in my assessment here, and I've seen a lot of like Bitcoiners, prominent Bitcoiners even mention this, like a normal person ain't going through all this. Like they're not rolling dice. They're not putting this seed phrase stuff into entropy. Like they're not, I've been in this space for 14 years and I'm not even as technical as all this. And I understand this better than the average person. It's a lot to ask. You know, it's a good point. And again, it's why me personally, I've kind of backed off just saying everybody should self-custody, even though I piss off some of my fellow hardcore Bitcoiners when I say that, because everybody feels like you should have self-custody and run a node. Otherwise, you're not a true Bitcoiner. I just think asking the average person to do all that is a lot of responsibility and creates a lot of potential places where people could do something that could screw up their generational wealth.
I think that's the thing that would scare me the most about it. It's funny because, like, you know, like how many characters is it? Your phrase?
12 word seed phrase minus 12.
Right.
Yeah, minus 12.
But you can make it longer.
24. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I'd be, you know, I wouldn't even trust the dice. I'd be buying like D&D dice where they have like like 14 sides, so or something like that, so I could come up with something even more that's not 1s through 6s. Like I'd be like I'd be like that, and I'd be so nervous that I would lose it, that I think that's why so many people then are like, you know, I'm gonna hide it somewhere. Well, someone can always steal it or whatever. Like, you know, there's so many ways, I guess. Like there's no, you would think, okay, well, if I do the self custody, that's going to be the safest thing. But you know, now we're seeing obviously that it's not, because anything can be hacked.
I had Coinbase only from December of 2013 until May of 2017. It took me that long to feel comfortable enough to pick a self custody, to do the 12-word seed phrase, to store my seed phrase in 2 separate places, to go through all, like, it took a while. Like I didn't, but again, to be fair, like back then there wasn't as much information. There wasn't as many people clouding your head with stuff. I had time to like figure things out. Today, it's different in the fact that there's so many influencers. There's so many videos you can watch. You type Bitcoin into TikTok or YouTube and you get shorts telling you 17 different ways to do things. It can be very overwhelming. And that's kind of where I took that step back. And I said, you know, I don't think it's fair to expect, like, yeah, I would say start with Coinbase or start with Gemini or start with some custodial and then eventually move your way into self-custody. I think it's probably fair to say that many Bitcoiners are just going to stay with Coinbase and whatever custodial they have and just feel comfortable doing that and never self-custody. And, you know, they'll have the keys there and know that, God forbid something happens, that they'll probably be reimbursed. And I think for many people, that's probably the best route for them to take. And as a hardcore Bitcoiner, it feels weird saying that, even though I know that that's the right thing to say, because for me personally, I would never do that. Like I don't want Coinbase to have my Bitcoin. I don't want custodial to hold my keys. I want that responsibility. And also at the same time, saying that as somebody this past weekend was nervous, even though my route has been safe for 9 years, I still was like, oh man, what if I open up my wallet and it's all gone? Like it gets sweeps. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's fear. And I believe that whoever did this, again, in the grand scheme of things, like 18 or 1900 token, 18 or 1900 Bitcoin is not a ton in a 21 million, landscape of tokens, but the amount of fear that it created does the job. You know what I mean? It created a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And if that was the goal, it definitely did that over this weekend. I saw a lot of people panicking. I want to share this. I want to share this specific article from somebody who actually lost from this hack. Jonathan Goodman. He shared this tweet. What day was this shared? August 2nd, which was last night. How has losing 1.6 million in Bitcoin in the cold card wallet hack changed my thoughts on the safety of devices to store crypto? I obviously made a mistake in letting the device do the seed phrase generation. Hindsight 2020. But also, and most notably, I'm just a regular guy that tried hard to do everything right and thought he did and still got drained. I can't comment on the safety of devices to store crypto. I don't know enough about the topic to comment on it, and I don't care to. Perhaps that's the point of all this. If it really is this complicated and technical, perhaps it's not worth doing. I was driving to our cottage today with my oldest son in our Tesla. I put it on auto drive, and all I can think about was how much blind trust I have in this company, in this car, in this technology, and I understand none of it. Our society only works because of trust. We stand on the 10th story of a building because we trust the architects who designed it, and construction workers who built it, and the material engineers, and so on. Nobody knows how basically anything works. We walk around with so much blind faith because we have to, because our society would fucking cease to exist without it. Perhaps that's the bigger story. And I share this, Rich, because I think it's really good, and because I think this is something, as a non-technical Bitcoiner myself, and you even being less of a non-technical Bitcoiner, we could kind of like chew on that. Like, what does that really mean in the overall landscape of society? I think a lot of good points were brought up.
We trust everything. We trust doctors. We trust our lawyers. We trust teachers. We trust everybody. Our whole society is based on trust. And you can see why some people who have been burned by that trust, like the Ted Kaczynskis of the world, go and live in a cabin someplace because they, and it's funny, you say don't trust, but you could say trust, verify, and that whole thing, don't trust, verify. And that's kind of like, how would you verify that though? Like, how would you verify that this company, like, I'm sure if you had Googled it at the time, yeah, this company's great. And how many times do we find out that, oh, well, there was corruption, there was this, there was a guy stealing. I mean, if the 90s taught us anything, the Bernie Madoffs of the world and Enron and all those things, is that it exposed the last, faith in our government. Like, it's very difficult, which is a circular conversation, because it brings back why, people want Bitcoin to begin with, is because they don't trust that the federal government has our best interests at heart. And so then we trust a company, and then we find out, like, that they, whether it was lazy or incompetence or cutting cost for measures, it's frustrating for that guy. He is driving to his cottage in his Tesla, so he must be doing okay. But I don't care how good he's doing. 1.9 million is an awful lot to lose, and hopefully there's some way for him to get that back.
So somebody, I didn't see this earlier, but I just saw this now. Somebody responded, and they responded by saying, hardware wallets in 2026 are like cars in the 19 teens. During that decade, operating an automobile required deep mechanical sympathy and physical effort. Before the widespread adoption of electric starters, drivers had to manually engage a hand crank at the front of the vehicle, manually adjusting the ignition timing using a spark lever, and tweak the choke just to get the engine running. It was a purist machine, but it was incredibly unforgiving. If a driver held the hand crank incorrectly and the engine backfired, the kickback could easily break their wrist or arm. Wow, it's I guess what he's saying in that, my takeaway in that is that, it's evolving. Like, we're at generation 1 or generation like 1A of what we're doing
society,
here.
We've been moving more and more to automation for 150 years, right? Like, maybe longer at this point. And whether it's, there's always a new technology, right? There's always has been, and and even like, there's that. Think about like televisions. Like you got a television in your house, I'm sure maybe a couple. And remember when you were a kid, if the TV broke, uh, what happened? The TV repairman came to your house, or you didn't bring the
Yeah,
TV because it was huge. It
they
was a
came to your
wooden
house.
cabinet,
Yeah.
like it was the one I had growing up.
Holy shit! I
So
forgot all about that. You're
so a
right.
guy would come to your house to fix your TV, like, pre Geek Squad, so to speak. Like, maybe you were electronically minded, so
Your milk was delivered too,
so
right? And ice, milk
yeah,
and
you'd
ice.
put like replace the tubes because the tubes would go. And those were the kinds of things. That's why your dad would yell about leaving the TV on when you left like, why is this TV on and nobody's in this room? Because he knew the cost of bringing the TV repairman to your house. And now when your TV breaks, what do?
Go buy a new one.
But the thing is, most of the time, a lot of those TVs that break, the things that break are things that you can go on YouTube, buy the part from a website and repair it yourself. But
True,
we have all gotten to the point where I'll just throw it out. I'll go to Sam's Club and I'll get a new one
because
because
they're so cheap now.
and that is the thing we've decided, and that is a major shift in society, that we just throw things out and we don't just when it could be fixed. I am a fixer. I try to fix everything and anything that I can. But I think my kids are probably like, just either if dad can't fix it, we're just throwing it out, we're getting a new one, trying to teach them a little bit of self-reliance. But it is definitely a cultural change, that we have decided to accept that technology is our friend.
Yeah, good points.
You know,
Very good points. So this is the next couple of slides is kind of where I stand with things. After the dust settles a little bit and you get your head back and you realize that this isn't the end of the world and this is a part of the growing process, you take a look at like what's really happening. What do you think the best possible explanation for all of this would be? And for me, again, this is just my observation. It doesn't mean that I'm stating this as complete fact and I stand on this as being complete fact. It's just my assessment. It's just how I feel because I don't trust governments and I don't trust people. This tweet here: self-sovereignty is what drew many of us to Bitcoin in the first place. Don't let fear or convenience convince you to hand it back. Fuck banks. I couldn't have put that better myself. Then it has a picture of the Twin Towers burning and it shows self-custody. And then the Sioux Coiners, which is your BlackRocks, which is your banks, which is the people that are trying to get your Bitcoin. It's a battle. This is like the early stages of a war, a financial revolution, a financial war that's occurring. And I believe whoever's behind this hack, and I could be wrong, are people associated with the banks and the people that are trying to control the narrative and get control of this ecosystem. And the next tweet by Fred Johnson: the small fry sell a few Bitcoin. The large accumulators see it and start sweeping it up. Bump the price a little, but they won't buy so much that it moves up hard. Big picture: governments, companies, smart individuals all over the globe are buying and holding Bitcoin. This is not going to stop, and it hasn't stopped. And again, as I said in the outset of all of this, which I think is very important for this conversation, the price of Bitcoin has not really moved. We had an absolutely major event happen. Confidence was shaken. Bitcoin Twitter was definitely shaken. And if we take a look, I'll go to CoinMarketCap. Bitcoin sitting at 63,463. And if you go and you look at the chart, let's go to the 1 week. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't moved much. 64. We were at when everything was going on, we were at like 64.8 and we're at 63.5. Is that even a percent? I mean, it's not much. In the past, I mean, Mt. Gox, Jesus Christ, we dropped like 85%. FTX, we dropped like 75%. We've dropped in one day, October crash, where we thought the world was falling down. It was like a 50% drop in a day. And this was a major event. Like, people's confidence, if you went on Bitcoin Twitter or crypto Twitter over the weekend, people were genuinely questioning the Bitcoin story. They were genuinely questioning self-custody. People were saying, I'm selling and I'm done. So if retail was saying that, but the price wasn't really moving. Why would that be? Because the people that really matter, the people that are accumulating, the big companies and organizations, they're not selling. The smart money's not selling. And that, honestly, the story, in my opinion, is that should terrify you. That should terrify you, because if the price is not moving, and that means that that's because the big players aren't selling, that means the big players are getting a large enough portion to hold the price. So how much is left for the rest of us? I mean, when this thing really turns, and we're not there yet. We are not even close to there yet, in my opinion, where, the average citizen is like, I should own Bitcoin in my portfolio. I think Bitcoin is the future. Like, we're not there yet. That's not happening. No matter what, the large Bitcoin influencers are trying to tell you, or somebody trying to sell you a story, or give you, some sort of scheme they're trying to sell you. I'm a Bitcoin podcaster, don't have a ton of followers, but I've been doing this for a minute. I've been in this space for a long time. Nothing would make me happier than to report to you that society's accepted Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin ethos is thriving, and the average person owns it. That's just not true. It's just not the story. The people that majorly own Bitcoin right now are much bigger people than me and you. And unfortunately, what we've been warning you for years at this point is that when that does become the case, it's going to be a too late thing. You're going to be fighting over the scraps. And I think for me, after getting over the initial, feelings of like, oh, I own some Bitcoin in self-custody, is it safe? The fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt that I think is a natural human emotion. After that subsides and the rationality kicks back in, that's the next thought. Look at the price. What's going on with the price? Didn't even go below 60. Didn't even really go below 62. I don't think I saw a 61 handle. I think it was mostly in the low 62s is where we really got to. And then I'm like, oh man, what does that really say? What is that saying about what's happening with Bitcoin? And if I'm being just honest and transparent, which I always try to be in this podcast, it actually saddens me, because the whole point of all this is for the average person to take back control of their financial future. But by the time that's going to become abundantly clear, the corporations and the businesses and the governments and the sovereign nations are going to own so much of this that it's just not going to be possible. And then there's a genuine argument for the side that says, how different is this than the system that we already have? And I can argue that, and we can have that argument, and I can say that, you're still decentralized, you still have, the ability to be your own bank with this, and all that stuff that, we've talked about, that we can continue to have conversations about. But it's a fair argument. Like, what part of the system, what part of the coins are going to be held by people with so much influence and so much power that it's going to kind of be like what we're leaving behind? And that's sad. That's sad. And more and more, it just feels like that was just inevitable from the outset. And maybe that's part of why Satoshi left. I don't know. Maybe that's part of that story. I'm not really sure, but this like I said, this Clarity Act fight in Congress, I'm so indifferent over it. Like, I could care less if it passes or doesn't pass. Part of me kind of wants it to flop. Kind of me partly doesn't want to see it go through, even though I know when it does, the price is going to go up. Things are going to go great for Bitcoin and all the other shit coins, and people will celebrate, and it'll probably have some sort of pump with the price. But in the long-term grand scheme of things, like, we kind of let the wolf in the hen house. What do you think, Rich? I don't know.
I agree. It's especially when you're talking about the Clarity Act. Like, I don't have any faith in any of these things anymore. From that, the government's going to pass anything for the right reasons. It's also political. It's just everything is, like, well, how am I going to benefit from it? Whether it's me or my party or whatever. So I'm fed up with it, and I do think, like, the it's not conspiracy because it's just the way things work. Like, they don't, big money whether it's banks, big government, they don't really want the little guy
Oh, of course not.
to believe in Bitcoin. They don't. They want us. They'll give us some scraps. They'll do that, but they want nobody to. I think there's definitely people at a high level within our society, whether they're government people, whether they're elected politicians, whether they're corporations. If they're not sure about Bitcoin, at the very least, they just don't, if they're wrong about it, they just don't want the little guy to believe in it either. Because then when they want to swoop in, they want to just be able to be the one, they want to control. They want control.
The big fight that's occurring over the Clarity Act is over the stablecoin yield.
Right.
So that should tell you everything you need to know about like where the banks think of you and think of consumers in general. They're fighting over the fact that they don't want stablecoin yields to far outmatch the yields that you're getting in the bank,
Right.
because then people will start to put their money in stablecoins, put them into crypto instead of the fiat at their banks. It'll mess up their banking model, cut into profits. If a stablecoin can give you 7 or 8% when the bank's giving you 2, 3, or 4, depending on which
Right.
place of the banking system you have it, that's terrible for their model. And it would be great for us. Like imagine if you were getting 7 or 8% on your money. Like that's a huge difference between, like, if you have it in a brick and mortar, you're under 1%.
Right.
So that's like 7 or 8 times more money, infinitely more in regards to compounding interest of what you could have if you put your money into a stable coin. And I'm not even a stable coin advocate, and I don't own any stable coins, but that's just highlights like the fight that's going on just on the stable coin front before you even get to the conversation about Bitcoin. I got an ad here that I want to play really quick. This is Coinbase. This is a Coinbase ad that they released in regards to the Clarity Act. It's very short, 26 seconds, but this is Coinbase advocating for the Clarity Act. Crypto. Crypto is the future. Crypto is our chance. I mean, Coinbase is so it's like honestly, this fight has on the side of like the Clarity Act has no, there's no good actors on either side. If you ask me if you want me to, if you give me some truth serum and you want honesty, like there are no good actors on either side. Coinbase is not a good actor. Coinbase is advocating for shitcoins. Coinbase is advocating so they can continue to just make all the fees that they're going to make on crypto trading and all the casino gambling and leverage bullshit that happens in crypto. That's great for Coinbase. But on the flip side, the banks are fighting it because they don't want to give you as much yield and they want to keep their banking model of fractional reserve banking going. So there are no good actors on either side. So, you know, the people that I have conversations with that are like not true hardcore Bitcoin only Bitcoiners are so excited for the Clarity Act. And it's like, well, they don't understand why, like, I'm just like, dude, if the Clarity Act falls flat on its face, cool. Like, I don't care. Even if the price drops 25% of Bitcoin, awesome. It's going to recover. It always does. I don't really give a shit about Fart Coin or Trump Coin or Ethereum or any of these other shit. Like, they all can just die. Because that's where Coinbase is going to make all their money. And those coins are not good for the average person anyways. It's all a casino. There's a conversation for the stable coins that I'm willing to entertain. If you're going to hold a stable coin and get yield on it, it's kind of the same as putting your cash in a bank and getting yield on that. So, okay, if you're looking to put your money in a stable coin and get 7%, all right, instead of getting 1% or 2% in the bank, all right, fair that's what you want. But on the crypto side, like, make no mistake, Coinbase is doing this out of self promotion and self gain. They're going to continue when Clarity Act passes, which it will pass at some point, I'm sure. It's just, will it be now? Will it be later? Is going to reap immensely financially from this. I mean, the banking lobby has got their people, their Elizabeth Warrens and their stuff like that. But Coinbase has got their people that they're funding. They're, you know, Senator Loomis and others that are getting money from Coinbase. Like, Coinbase is a big lobbyist now as well. Like they're gaining a foothold in the lobby, and their money is crafting decision and policy making. So again, I don't see Coinbase as the quote unquote good actor on this side either. It is what it is. Bitcoin survives. Bitcoin has survived so much. Bitcoin survived Mount Gox. Bitcoin survived the block size wars. Bitcoin survived Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Bitcoin survived this October 10th collapse that we had almost a year ago now. This weekend self-custody stuff, it's going to continue to survive and thrive. It's math, it's code. We're still in the early stages. We're still figuring things out. Companies are still figuring things out. Quantum is a threat. They're figuring that out. Bitcoin will outlast all of us. So it's inevitable. We don't need clarity. Clarity is just for all this crypto casino shit. And let it live, let it die. I'm come see, come saw on that. It is what it is. All right. I don't want to beat a dead horse on that. We went through those. I will, let me see if I can pause this. Let me play this video because I want to try to be as non-biased as I can be and play all angles of things. Let's play this. This is Gareth Jenkinson. Don't trust, verify. It's a great mantra, but can it even be true? We basically trust in some elements of everything in reality. So let's listen to what Gareth has to say. He's quoting Jonathan's tweet that we just played earlier for context. So if you can't quite see that, it's Jonathan's the 1.6 million that he just lost, the tweet that we shared a little while ago. He's got that in the background, and these are his thoughts on that. So let's play this video, 39 seconds really.
Been having a lot of conversations with Bitcoiners the last few days, and this post probably sums it up the best. Jonathan Goodman lost over $1 million, and right at the end, nobody knows how basically anything works. We walk around with so much blind faith because we have to, because our society would cease to fucking exist without it. Isn't that the truth? We all have some sort of trust in various elements of the things that we kind of take for granted. You just trust that the systems of the internet work. You trust that the electricity grid works. You trust that the government is keeping your water clean. How many things do we just blindly trust?
Yeah. I mean, very true. When you really think about it and you sit back and you're honest with yourself, it's a good argument. Good points. Here's a tweet from a former guest on our podcast who's been blowing up. Vince is he's close to like 3,000 subs now. He's had some big heavy hitters on his podcast. He's working hard. He posts very often. I don't know if it's his full-time job now, but Vince has definitely gone in on the podcasting, content creation. He's monetized on X. He's working super hard. I love to big him up, and I share all of his stuff whenever he posts things. So here's a tweet by Vince, Otto, Florida. Bitcoin hasn't changed. Yes, people stole Bitcoin, but the government steals from you every single day. They just do it silently. Don't let these crooks shake you out of the best money ever created. That last sentence is really it. Like, as bad as things are, as much confidence as potentially could be shaken through this hack, it's still the best that we got. It's still better than fiat, and it still has many qualities that are better than gold and silver. And as of now, it's the best that we have. So are you going to go back to fiat, which we've already identified as corrupted and a melting ice cube? Are you going to custody gold and silver and deal with all that comes along with that? And, the get out of Dodge problem of how do we transport if we have large quantities of that? So, with all this, it's growing pains, and it's still the best money that we got. And I echo the sentiments of Vince. This is a Thomas Massey tweet that's completely unrelated to any of the stuff that we've covered for the first 45 minutes of this podcast. But I did want to bring it up because a couple of days ago, in the middle of all this stuff going on with this hack, we passed $40 trillion of debt officially. And this number is pretty staggering. 10% of all the debt accumulated in the 250-year history of this country will be incurred in the first half of Trump's second term, with Mike Johnson and John Thune leading Congress. I'm unashamed to have been kicked off team debt for not going along with this. So if my math is mathing, 10% would be 4 trillion of 40. So in 2 years, because half of the second term would be 2 years. So he's averaging about 2 trillion a term, which is absolutely unsustainable. For a guy that ran on transparency, for a guy that ran on setting up Doge and holding the government accountable for its spending, that's not what you want. That's not what we signed up for. But again, to be fair to Trump, it's a problem that's been spiraling long before Trump came along. Part of the whole 2016 movement of Trump is because of all this. So to give Trump a little bit of fairness, he was never going to have a plan that was going to properly address this, because it's just at a point where it's snowballing so fast and so quickly that you can't stop it. Nothing stops this train, to take from Lynn Alden. Our debt is going to continue to spiral. It's going to continue to accumulate. There is no stopping it. It's just, what are they going to do? Like, how are we going to have this reset? How are we going to continue to handle this? Because going back to zero is not in our future. Going to 39 trillion from 40 is not in our future. But what is? Like, what are we going to do? Like, Rich, what are we doing? What are we going to do?
But it's, it's really, really annoying because, again, people always make these comments like the Democrats are like, so they're fiscally irresponsible. And that's true. They are. But like the Republicans say it all the time. And this one president, like, is responsible for how much of the debt? Like something like 40% of the national debt. And that's fine but he's the one who said that he was going to get rid of it, and he ran on it. And that's my level of frustration. And then the people that like think that it's like, but well, it's this would have happened, or this or that, and they make excuses. And that's the problem with us as
28 to 29%.
Okay, so almost a third. That's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not defending any of the other people that spend stuff, but but did you see how much they spend on the investment of something? And I'm like, but you don't understand, like, how much have we spent just on a war that gets us nothing? And meanwhile, like, countries like China, like, aren't wasting any of this time. They don't waste any money on this crap. They've never invaded anyone. And everyone's like, oh yeah, but they're going to someday invade, Taiwan. They're going to walk across the border and it's going to be a handshake. There's not going to be a weapon fired for that. It is literally, they're fiscally so much better at what they do with their money. And we can't get our electrical grid working. We don't, it's just a hot mess. And both parties are just as bad. And I understand why you don't vote. I get it. But we keep allowing it as people. I mean, granted, there's only so much you can do, but I don't know. We're not doing anything like as a people. We just roll over and we say, the ones that are smart enough to realize that we're cooked, there's not enough of us. And the rest of us just think, well, if the next guy gets in or that lady gets in, she'll fix it or he'll fix it. And it just isn't going to happen.
Across his terms, his administration has overseen an increase of roughly 11 to 13 billion in total cumulative debt. Financial analysts and fiscal watchdogs note that this is the largest debt accumulation tied to any single presidency.
And we don't even believe that these numbers are accurate. We think these numbers are significantly higher. We talked that about a month ago, that the debt's probably a lot higher than this. It's actually more than that.
I don't believe anything the government tells me. So, yeah.
I mean, they remember they had that clock. Where's that clock? It was in Wall Street or something, the debt clock.
Yeah.
I think they had to keep adding, like,
they
things
took it
to
down.
the left of it so they can put more numbers up.
Now,
It's
the
crazy.
the thing with Trump that is what I do continue to have a gripe with people is like Biden gets so much of the blame for the COVID stimulus and the inflation. It's Biden's inflation. And again, I've said this many times before, and I'll continue to say it until the day that I die. The COVID stimulus problem was started and greenlit and signed with signature on the checks because that's what Trump wanted, if you remember, by President Trump. He kickstarted the entire fiscal problem that came about in regards to the COVID crisis in fiscal spending. Now, yes, Biden made it much worse. Not here to defend Biden. Not going to say that that's not true. But you can't tell the whole story without telling this part of Trump, what he played in it, in regards to the fiscal problem that we had and the inflation of 2022. Biden was only president for a year when we really started to feel the effects.
Right.
And that was a combination of everything that happened from 2020 to 2021. Right. Now, do you want to say if COVID never happens and, things were going well for Trump up to 2019? Sure. Okay. You can say that. But like, you're the president, your job is to react to whatever happens. And so fairly or unfairly, COVID happened on his watch. And there were a plethora of decisions he made that in hindsight were poor. And when you're the president, you don't get to govern in hindsight. You govern in real time. And the decisions that you make will be scrutinized as part of your legacy. So it's people were like dumbfounded in 2024 in the summer when I was like, oh, we're going to fix all the financial stuff. We're going to get rid of Biden and all I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, what history did you live in? What COVID did you go through? Because the guy that you're saying is going to be the savior for all this is the same guy who kickstarted it. He's not fiscally responsible. He's never been a fiscal conservative in his entire life. He was Democrat for like 30 years. He's never been fiscally conservative. Even as a conservative or a Republican, he never campaigned fiscally conservative. Even at the outset, if you go back to 2015 and 16, he's never been one. So like to think he was going to come in as a white knight in shining armor and fix everything in 2024 and 2025 is just absolutely stupid.
And the things that Doge supposedly did actually led to more, because they took safeguards out because they thought they weren't worthwhile, have led to huge costs because of it. Like even like a simple equation, like, again, we can get into the reasons why he wanted this war and all that crap. But like the war itself is just an example of our government not understanding things. We're using a $4 million bomb to do something, and they're using a $20,000 drone, and they're accomplishing an awful lot, hitting bases and things like that. So even from a war efficiency, like this government can't even run a war well. We're out of bombs. It's going to take them 3 years to restock this stuff at a cost of ridiculous amount, which just is fake money that they just print. Because again, and again, like they were going to do a bunch of things, and then our partners in the Middle East like shut it down because even they're getting to the point like the grift isn't worth it to them anymore. Because when their stuff's going to get hit. But we all roll over and say, well, if we just did this, we just did this. In the meantime, the numbers I was looking at, whether it's inflation, whether it's their GPAs, our gross national products down, like everything's up. Gas is not under $2 anywhere in the country. I don't care. Show me that.
National average continues to be north of $4. For it came down slightly in the high 3.9s when things were kind of
within a week and a half. Yeah, it was over. The market doesn't even react anymore because, and it was funny the way you were talking about earlier, and I was going to say this at the time, and I didn't want to interrupt you. It's kind of funny that like how the crypto market's not reacting to anything anymore. Nothing's really reacting anymore. Like we're kind of like the gas doesn't go up, oil prices don't go up and down significantly. They're stuck where they are. They're not going to go up and down significantly because nobody believes anything. The stock market's kind of realized.
You know what it's operating under?
This.
You know what it's operating under?
What?
Don't trust, verify.
You're right.
Yeah. And on that note, let's show this last tweet before we end the podcast with that ethos. So this is from Tao. And this is I brought this as the closer because Tao was tweeting what Don would tweet in this situation. I will still self custody. I will always self custody. I will never be shaken from controlling my own money and self sovereignty. That's how I feel. That's what I'll continue to do. Yes, this was scary. Yes, it had confidence shaken. But dust settles. Back at business as usual. Still self custody your Bitcoin. Do the work. Understand it. Also, stay where you're comfortable. This isn't telling you that you should self custody, but if you're going to self custody, make sure you're responsible about it. Do your research and understand things. And as always, don't trust, verify. Thanks for watching. Peace.